Bullet Club.
Hello and welcome to all of you worthless viewers. This message is being brought to you by the Bullet Punch Club, and each and every one of you are about to receive the opportunity, no, the privilege of witnessing the official takeover of the National Pokeball League. That's right, the big leagues of the draft community, the heavyweight division of competitive Pokemon, and I will be your host, Matty Omega, also known as the single greatest competitor that has ever graced the Pokemon community. And I am also the coach of the Los Angeles Reshirams. And now, please, if you'll do me the favor, sit back and watch me put on the most incredible competitive Pokemon spectacle that the world has ever seen. Why? Simply because I can. Now, without further ado, we must get this show started. So goodbye, mwah, and good night, bang! Hello and welcome to all of you worthless viewers. My name is Matty Omega, proud member of the Bullet Punch Club, planning to take over the National Pokeball League in Season 7. And with that being said, we are bringing you the NPL Season 7 Week 4 battle against my arch nemesis, the one person in the draft community that just seems to have my number, the one person that I just struggle to win against on a regular basis. And his name is Cheeseboy628. Ladies and gentlemen, you've probably, if you've been following me for a while, you've probably seen me play him before. When I first started Draft League, that was NPL Season 4, and he beat me in 2 really close games, and then, including one knocked me out of the playoffs. Then NPL Season 5, I actually beat him the first time we played, and we ended up playing again in the semifinals, where I had like the best season of my life at that point. It seemed like I was unstoppable except for maybe Gypsy King, but Cheeseboy was able to knock me out of the playoffs once again. So he didn't play last season in the NPL. He took a break, so now he's back, and we get another chance to go against Cheese. So I would love to get a win back just because he's always been kicking my butt. But yeah, it just, like I said, there's one person. There's not always, but for a lot of people, even some of the greats, there's one person who just seems to really have their number. And for me, it's Cheeseboy. I just cannot get his thought process down. And when it comes to tight games, he just always seems to make the right plays. So it's definitely going to be a tough battle, especially because his matchup is looking pretty annoying. As you can't see my team here, but my team is the same as always, as it's been the last 3 weeks. And he has some major threats to my team, as you see right here, Manaphy. Manaphy is a gigantic threat to my team. I'm never usually a huge Manaphy fan, but against my team, because I don't have a ton of breakers that could outspeed it and whatnot, it really is a major threat because its speeds here against my team is really good. I have 2 Pokemon that outspeed it naturally, one being Archeops, which isn't that good against Cheese's team, and the other one being Scolipede, which can't even hit Manaphy that hard. So that is kind of concerning. Although I also have Whimsicott. But yeah, that is kind of concerning because my 2 breakers, well, somewhat, my 2 offensive threats that can outspeed Manaphy don't really hit it that hard. And Manaphy gets coverage like Ice Beam for the Whimsicott. So Whimsicott isn't necessarily a safe counter, especially because it's pretty weak too. So even though it has super effective grass coverage against Manaphy, it doesn't necessarily hit it that hard. So Manaphy is really scary because not only is the offensive set really good against me, but the bulky, like Calm Mind or Rain Dance type set is also really good against me because it 1v1s most of my team. The reason I don't think he'll bring that is because I have a Whimsicott, and Whimsicott could literally just make that set useless for the most part because, yeah, Whimsicott could be worn down, but if I have a leftovers Whimsicott, even if I get burned, the burn is negated by the leftovers in Gen 7, so it shouldn't be too big of a deal. And if I can constantly pressure it out and keep forcing it to come back in, take damage from things like stealth rocks or something, I could be in a decent spot. So I don't expect him to bring that type of Manaphy. I really hope he doesn't, because the team that I have, admittedly, is going to be very weak to it. But overall, I don't think he should bring it, because like I said, it could be completely nullified by Whimsicott. I could bring Roar Blastoise, just because some kind of sets like that, even like Psych Up Cresselia, could potentially beat it. But the main reason I just think that he wouldn't bring it is because Manaphy, like I was saying before, Manaphy's speed tier is so good against my team. It outspeeds everything but 3 Pokemon, and, you know, those 3 Pokemon don't do that good of a job at beating it. And he could also run Z Rain Dance, which can allow him to outspeed those 3 aforementioned threats as long as they're not Choice Scarfed. So a Manaphy with like 3 coverage moves or something like that, or 2 coverage moves plus Z Rain Dance, is just very, very threatening to my team. It really just kind of blows through everything, except for, I guess, like especially defensive Cresselia, which can't do anything back, especially in the rain, because I can't Toxic it or anything like that. So that Manaphy is a huge threat. Mega Tyranitar is a huge threat to my team. It really could just destroy things at +1. Gallade is actually quite a big threat to my team. Swellow is a massive threat to my team because it outspeeds everything, and it gets the ability Scrappy. And if you guys don't know, Swellow got a pretty decent buff in special attack for Gen 7, which makes the Boom Burst set with Choice Specs. It doesn't need to be Specs, but Specs hits a lot harder than Life Orb. It really kind of needs that extra power, and the fact that I only have 1 resist, being Bronzong, and Chandelure can't be immune to it because it's got Scrappy, really makes that set a major threat to my team. So, like, looking at this matchup, it's definitely going to be difficult for me to make a team that could handle all of his threats offensively and defensively, but there's one way that I noticed I could really exploit his team, and that is through the use of my little 4-point mon over here, Crabominable. As if you look at his team, he really is weak defensively to Crabominable. And now Crabominable is really slow, and it's not that bulky, and it also doesn't have recovery, but the thing is, if I bring Crabominable plus Trick Room support, and even something like Lunar Dance from Cresselia, then I could keep Crabominable healthy enough to just come in and get kills every time it comes in. It destroys everything with its dual stabs on his team. Literally everything. And the one thing that can kind of take hits from it is like a fully physically defensive Manaphy, which, like I said, I don't really expect him to bring because the offensive set is so good against me. And even so, the physically defensive one does get slammed by close combat. It's actually a 2-hit KO. Life Orb Close Combat is a guaranteed 2-hit KO from Crabominable on the Manaphy. So that is why I don't even think it's worth bringing physically defensive Manaphy, because he needs to predict correctly to even have a chance at surviving hits from Crabominable. So basically, my team is going to try to exploit a weakness on Cheese's, because overall, just Mon for Mon, he definitely has the matchup here. So, and that's kind of how my team works, you know, like Mon for Mon, I usually do not have a good matchup against my opponents, but it usually has little tricks up his sleeve that could potentially beat my opponent or totally catch them off guard. And that's the type of team that I drafted. It's definitely not a very smart idea, as you've been seeing these past couple weeks. Not against Mono, but against Blake week 2. It's not a hacks-proof team. It's not that type of team where the matchups are really good to the point where even if I get hacks a decent amount, I'm still in a good spot. No, like when I got hacks against Blake, everything starts to spiral down pretty quickly for me. So now I'll move on to the flawless team builder, so maybe you guys can learn a thing or two about competitive Pokemon. So here we are with my inferior Comfy first. We have the Whimsicott. I brought a Trick Room Whimsicott with the Kebia Berry here, because in case he has a Moongus and he has like a free Spore against my team, it would be nice for me to bring in something like this Whimsicott and either Memento it or Encore it into Spore. And if he does go for the Sludge Bomb, predicting my Whimsicott to come in, or he just goes for Sludge Bomb for whatever reason, I can take a hit with the Kebia Berry and then, most likely just get off the Memento or pivot around it and go into something else. So this set is enough to outspeed the max speed Manaphy. I don't really need to outspeed the max speed Manaphy, but I just figured if it's really weakened or something like that, then I could get a Moonblast off and just knock it out or pick it off. But other than that, we are a specially defensive set to take hits from the Manaphy a little bit better. I originally had leftovers which would negate the burn like I mentioned before, but I figured the Kebia Berry would be nice because I am kind of weak to the Amoonguss. So Yep, that is right, a timid Whimsicott with Trick Room, but the thing is, that doesn't really hinder Whimsicott too much because of the Prankster ability. Under the Trick Room, my Prankster moves will go first, so if I get a Trick Room up, I can get a Prankster Memento, which could get me into either Crabominable to break things, or if I want a Memento even outside of Trick Room, that could help my Scolipede setup, as I'll show you the set in just a little bit. As next we have, also the Encore is very important for the Manaphy, because if it is the defensive Calm Mind set, that could it does just destroy my team, so I think it is a little bit better that I do bring the Encore on this thing, just in case he does bring that set, because that really can force him to switch out and whatnot, which could be useful for me. So next we have my used Luminium, my Mega Blastoise, mostly an offensive set. Scald and Ice Beam kind of run through his team a good amount, that type of coverage. And the only thing that resisted is Manaphy, so I have Toxic, because if it's offensive Manaphy, Toxic will be good, as well as Sylveon. Sylveon can take hits from this set pretty well, so Toxic could be nice if he doesn't have Heal Bell. And I just have enough speed here for a defensive Mandibuzz, so the special attack is enough to a KO. I think like pretty much max Spinef Mandibuzz almost all the time, so that is pretty useful, as this Blastoise that really does break his team pretty well and take hits pretty well also, which is nice. I may need it to take hits from something like Mega Tyranitar +1, which if it's, I believe for the most part I could take a +1 hit from Mega T-Tar, which is definitely useful. I could take hits from the Glade, I could take hits from the Heatran for the most part, so that is definitely pretty nice. As next we have Mike the Bronzong, the Mental Herb special. We got Trick Room, Stealth Rock, Explosion, Earthquake. The Earthquake is just in case he has Heatran. I am Heat Proof because I don't think he's going to expect me to be to be Heat Proof, and he may want to lead with something like Heatran. So even if he does not go for the taunt first turn with a Heatran on my Bronzong, and he does go for a Fire move, I'll definitely be able to take it no matter what the set is, and get up either my Stealth Rocks or my Trick Room. So that is pretty useful. And the Earthquake, like say he switches in Heatran, after I've already gotten on my Stealth Rocks or Trick Room, I can get pretty solid damage off with the Earthquake. But mostly, I want to Explode, because I can get up Stealth Rocks on something like Mandibuzz, which is a pretty decent check to Bronzong. And afterwards, I can Explode, not allowing it to defog the rocks away, and then setting in something like Crabominable, which under Trick Room can outspeed the Mandibuzz and not let it defog the rocks away, which is definitely very useful for me in this game, because rocks plus Crab just go in. So next we have my Use Unknown, the Shiny Cresselia here. Pretty standard set, just Trick Room, Psychic, Toxic, just in case like he's got Tyranitar and I want to get a Toxic up before I set up Trick Room, just to kind of wear it down. Toxic could hit other things too, like Glade, offensive Manaphy, Sylveon, and yeah, overall just Trick Room, Psychic, random coverage, just not that important. Really just needs the Trick Room and the Lunar Dance, because the Lunar Dance will be very important for Crabominable after it's come in and either taken a hit or two, or just gotten some hits off and taken some Life Orb damage, and I want it to be out of range of kind of like a relatively weaker neutral hit later on. So that is going to be very important, as Cresselia should be able to set up a guaranteed Trick Room on pretty much everything, especially with the Mental Herb, to prevent Taunt from stopping me. So then next we have a decent win con here. We have a Adamant Scolipede with the Muscle Band here. It is a pretty strong mon against his team, as it hits everything at least neutrally, and if I could weaken certain things like Mandibuzz, then Scolipede could really go in against his team. It hits everything very hard. Use Dustox here, nice and shiny. Really has a solid matchup, as it can set up SDs on a good amount, especially if I get a Memento off with something like my Inferior Comfy over here. And then finally we have the star of the show, the Used Crabominable, Life Orb, Iron Fist, Close Combat Ice Hammer, Dynamic Punch, and Ice Punch. Now, Dynamic Punch is kind of weird, but like I said, I totally admitted that I'm pretty weak to the Manaphy here. I definitely didn't spend as much time on this builder as I have been in the past few weeks, just because I saw this was a very exploitable weakness, and I'll have a very good chance to win if he does bring a team that happens to be weak to Trick Room plus Crabominable. And the only way he doesn't bring a team that's weak to that is if he brings like tons of Yachi Berries, or he runs a really bulky Manaphy, which, like I said, I don't think makes the most sense against me. So that is why I just kind of built a almost autopilot team this week. But Dynamic Punch could be useful for a bulkier Manaphy, because if I can Dynamic Punch it outside of the rain and confuse it, then all of a sudden I have a decent chance of stopping its momentum in its tracks, which could be useful. But I really don't expect it to be that useful. But another thing that's kind of nice about it is that if I'm forced to go for it to avoid getting like Spadef drops, because that's the thing. If I'm going to go for close combat under Trick Room, that means I'm going to attack first and get a Spadef or defense drops first, allowing me to potentially be in range of hits more likely than I would be if, you know, I went for close combat second. So Dynamic Punch actually has the same exact power as close combat with the Iron Fist boost, and it, you know, not only does it have the confusion effect, which could be kind of helpful for me, but it won't drop my defenses, which could be incredibly game-changing in certain situations. I wish Crabominable got Hammer Arm, but unfortunately its next best fighting move is, I think, Brick Break, so that is unfortunate as I'm forced to go with Dynamic Punch here. I'm not really going with it for the confusion. I'd really rather not go for it, but like I said, if there's nothing I can do against the Manaphy, then maybe I'm forced to. The one thing I was really considering was Roar on Blastoise, but it's just like Manaphy can kind of 1v1 my whole team anyway, so I figured if he doesn't bring that set, then Toxic will just have a lot more upside than Roar on this team. So this Crabominable, in case I don't want to miss Ice Hammer, I have the nice Ice Punch, really just runs through Cheese's team. Like, it really, really does. And if things go to plan, this thing could potentially get all 6 kills, and we walk away with a nice W. So without further ado, we will get into the long-awaited match against my rival, Cheeseboy628. Alrighty, we are back for the battle narration as Cheeseboy over here brought a team pretty much what I was expecting. I wasn't sure if he'd bring Mandibuzz or Donphan, but I was definitely expecting everything else for the most part, except for maybe Gallade. I thought he might not bring Gallade, but I definitely think Gallade is one of the bigger threats to my team, so I do think it was a good bring. Now, here I am over here as Vegan Cheeseboy, as I actually met Cheese not too long ago. We met in person, which was a really awesome experience. He stopped in New York for a little while, so I was like, I gotta go see him, and I visited him in the city, and we went out for pizza, and we had some nice vegan pizza, because the cows that were used to produce the cheese that we ate were actually vegan. Therefore, the pizza was vegan. So I'm a vegan Cheeseboy, and he's Cheeseboy628. And yeah, basically he brought, like I said, pretty much similar to what I was expecting. And I'm just hoping that this Manaphy is not going to be bulky. So let's get right into the battle. He leads with his Mandibuzz. I lead with Mike. He goes for the knockoff, as I go right for the Trick Room right here. Now, I go for the Stealth Rocks, as he goes for the knockoff. And no big deal, because I'm literally just going to explode here. I do not want him to defog these rocks away, because I really need these rocks to win this game. So I'm going to go right for the explosion and put the pressure right on him by going into Crabominable next. As I do get the explosion off, and he does go for the defog, which does fail, which is great. So here I go into Crabominable, and this is nice, because his only potential switch in here is Manaphy. And if he does go Manaphy, number one, I get the Scouted set, which is nice. And number two, it's kind of his win con if he thinks about it in the long run, so it may not be the safest thing to go into Manaphy, so I may just get a kill here. But either way, I should, if he does go into Manaphy, I will be able to Scouted set, which is useful, because like if he is bulky, it's going to suck, but it's nice to know. And it's really not worth making the prediction here, because like I said, his only counterplay to Crabominable is predicting, so I want to do my best here to just play it safe. If he's offensive Manaphy or anything but the fully physically defensive set, then I am in such a good position, because Ice Hammer plus Close Combat will knock out any non-physically defensive Manaphy. So I don't need to predict. I could just attack and things will drop, which is great. So I'm hoping that he's not going to be defensive Manaphy. He does go into Manaphy, and the Ice Hammer does 25, and that's nothing. And Cheese, I have to, want to shout him out. He was gracious enough. I missed the Ice Hammer originally, and that was really detrimental to my game plan, because as you can see, I don't have a lot of Trick Room turns here. So losing all that momentum by missing was super unfortunate, and I was like, restart with a question mark, and he was like, yeah, definitely. So that was really nice of him. I'm really big on that type of thing, like restarting it, especially if it's early in the game, because it's just so easy to recreate. I want Pokemon to be a game with as little RNG influencing it as possible, so I get that it happens and it's part of the game, and I don't think it's good to be crying about restarting all the time, just being like, oh, restart every time something bad happens. But like, if you could limit the amount of hacks and it's easy and it's no sweat on anybody, then I do think it's good. There are some people out there that may want to go change their team, but like, literally, for me, the reason to restart is because I want Pokemon to be a more fair game. I don't want anyone to have the chance to go change their team. I just want it to be as skill-based as humanly possible, which, you know, is oftentimes not what Pokemon is. So he was nice enough to restart so I could hit my move, and that did nothing. So I got a low roll on the Ice Hammer, but still, it wasn't doing more than like 30.6% or something like that. So this is not good, because I do not have much for this Manaphy. As here, I'm just going to kind of close combat it, because I know that I can live a Scald after that, or even a Surf. So I could kind of scout the set and see if he's going to attack and I can keep him low, or if he's going to go right for the Rain Dance so he could rest on the next turn after Trick Room goes down. So I just want to make sure he's the, you know, Rain Dance set despite being physically defensive. So here, that close combat also gets a minimum roll. Like, that's literally min. So kind of unfortunate there, just because it doesn't really matter. But that just clarifying, that is like absolute min. So that means this turn he can rest nice and easily, because the Trick Room is about to end and he will be at 100%. So obviously the rolls don't matter at all, but it's just good to know his spread exactly. So the fact that I got absolute min on fully physically defensive in the calc means that he's fully physically defensive. He doesn't have any other EVs anywhere else, almost definitely. So now I am going to switch out here. There's no reason for me to stay in, because I will die to a potential -1 Surf. So here he goes for the rest and he gets the hydration. So here I know he's going to switch out, predicting the potential encore of the grass move. So I am just going to go right for the Trick Room as he goes right into his Raikou. And now, this is unfortunate. I do not want to sack my Whimsicott just yet, but I have no switch into this Raikou. Nothing. And I need as many Trick Room turns as possible. By going to Crabominable here, now all of a sudden I have the ability to predict on a potential Manaphy switch. And so he's forced to sack things unless he wants to send in Manaphy and loses win con. So here, I'm just going to be kind of forced to go for the Memento, because my only way, I realize, of winning this game is by going into Crabominable and getting kills and pressuring the Manaphy that way, because when the rain isn't up, Manaphy can't reliably set up rest or set up Rain Dance and rest under the Trick Room. So my game plan here is to beat the Manaphy that way. Just force it under Trick Room and not allow it to recover up on me, because it needs to use both rest and Rain Dance and rest. So here I am just going to go right for the Ice Hammer, as I know that he's not going. Well, I'm pretty confident that he's not going into Manaphy here, because he can see how good Manaphy is against my team right now. And if he does, he saw how much the close combat did before. He knows that if he switches in to a close combat after Stealth Rocks, it is a guaranteed to a KO. So he goes into the Mandibuzz, which I knock out. As here he goes into Gallade. This was surprising to me, because, well, honestly, never mind. I think this is actually the right play, somewhat. I mean, he could have gone into something else if he thought it was less useful. But if he did go into Manaphy here with 2 turns, it's risky, because if I go for the close combat and Scald doesn't kill me or burn me, which with my full HP investment, Scald shouldn't kill at -1 from here, then, like Surf would, but Scald shouldn't, then I could 2 KO the Manaphy with 2 close combats, because there's no rain up, so he can't just go right for the rest. So I do think it's his best play to go into something that he could sack here, but maybe Glade wasn't his best sack, because I know he kind of had a brain fart here. He calced like 0 attack Crabominable, and he didn't know that Crab got Iron Fist, so this Ice Hammer is like ridiculously easy KO. It would have killed like almost 2 Glades, as now here he's able to go into Manaphy, and I am going to switch out here, because, no, actually no, I go for the Dynamic Punch. I go for the Dynamic Punch here because even if I hit and take the Life Orb damage, a Surf will not kill me if he does have Surf over Scald, which I don't expect him to have, but it won't kill me unless he gets a crit, because he's max defense and no special attack, and Dynamic Punch will not drop my defenses. So if I hit this Dynamic Punch, not only is he confused and may not be able to get off his Rain Dance, but what's nice about it is that it forces him to rest the next turn, because he'll be pretty low. And if he does hit himself in confusion, then I could just stay in and knock him out the next turn with a close combat, because like I said, the Surf won't kill me from there, so I could just stay in and then pick him up for the close combat, and Blastoise plus Scolipede should be enough to close this game, even if Crabominable does go down to the Life Orb hit. So, unfortunately, I missed the Dynamic Punch here. Not too big of a deal, because I still should have a chance to get back into this game. I thought about it pretty long and hard, and I realized that if I go right into my Cresselia here, I could do this knowing that he's probably going to go for the Calm Mind, as he looks like he's in an amazing position right now. But here, what I could do is go right for the Trick Room, and I could go right for the Lunar Dance here, as he's probably going to go for another Scald, just in case I try to attack him or do anything funky. So with this being the case, I go into Crabominable. Now, a close combat, putting me at -1, will put me in range of a rain boosted +1 Scald. But if I Dynamic Punch, even after the Life Orb hit, there is no chance he can knock me out with a +1 rain boosted Scald. So if I hit this Dynamic Punch, I pretty much have this game in the bag, and I'll explain why. Because I will do, at minimum, like 50.5% like you saw before. So this Manaphy will be in range of the next close combat, which I would be able to go for next because I have an extra turn of Trick Room, and I won't have to worry about dropping my defenses after that because, you know, I've already weakened him down, and I don't need to worry about going down anymore because I still have the Trick Room now to speed him. So what happens is basically he either sacks his Manaphy off, which is by far the biggest threat to my team, and then I still have another turn of Trick Room, and close combat is a guaranteed kill on all of these Pokemon that are left. So either he sacks his Manaphy off, or he sacks 2 of these last 3 Pokemon. Now, my Scolipede can set up a Swords Dance on 3 of his remaining Pokemon. The only thing it can't set up on is Swellow. And, what's it called? Blastoise can take a hit from Swellow. So if he does bring Swellow in, then all I basically need to do is force it out once and get my Scolipede in on something else where I could set up on, I could set an SD up on, and then win the game, because once it gets to +1, it will outspeed everything on his team, and at +2, even like a fully physically defensive Manaphy will go down after it comes back in on rocks and something like a Muscle Band, Poison Jab, so I don't even have to risk the miss. So either he sacks 2 other things here, or he sacks Manaphy and one other thing, and I most likely clean up with Scolipede, which right now is the game plan, but I need to hit a Dynamic Punch. But the thing is here, the good thing about this spot is that if he doesn't burn me with this Scald, then I have one more chance to hit him with the Dynamic Punch as, what's it called? I have one more chance to hit him with the Dynamic Punch, as if I do hit him with the Dynamic Punch, the rain is going to end, and I could still go into Scolipede and set up to +2, and he's a confused Manaphy because the rain would end that turn, or the rain actually ends this turn. So if I confuse him here, he'll be confused. Or, you know, if I confuse him the next turn, if I get a chance to go for another Dynamic Punch, then he will, what's it called, be a confused Manaphy, and I'll have a good chance to set up a Swords Dance with my Scolipede. And if he hits himself with confusion, then I attack one more time with Crabominable and I knock him out. So I have 2 chances basically to hit Dynamic Punch here, unless he burns me with the Scald or crits me or something like that. So here, I go for the Dynamic Punch, and I miss, which is really, really unfortunate. And here he goes for the Scald, and he burns. So that just kills any chance I have of winning, because now I just straight up lose to the Manaphy. I can't roar it out because I don't have Roar on Blastoise. And Scolipede is going to go down to a, not +1 Scald, but I think if he gets another Rain Dance up, I'll go down to the +1 Scald. So he could easily just go for the Rain Dance here. So I just go for the close combat. I actually get a crit, but it does nothing because I'm burned. And he goes for the Rain Dance, which is definitely his best play, as there's one more Trick Room turn, so he easily just goes for the rest here. And he wakes up and just beats the rest of my team. So definitely unfortunate. I know it's Dynamic Punch and it's 50% accurate, but to hit 1 out of 3, which like I would have had the 3rd chance if he didn't burn me, is a calc that's heavily in my favor, you know? Even hitting 1 out of 2 is in my favor. So the fact that I wasn't able to get that second hit, that second one really would have pretty much sealed the game for me, because he would have been confused afterwards, and if he, you know, didn't get the burn, or even if he did get the burn, he was still in range of getting 2-hit KO'd by Crab, and he would have to get both a Rain Dance and a Rest Up through Confusion to have a chance to still keep his Manaphy. And like I said, my Scolipede was setting up on 2 of the 3 remaining Pokemon here, being the Tyranitar, the Swellow, and the Raikou, because you probably think, I can't set up on a Tyranitar if it's got a Rock move, but he actually doesn't have a Rock move on this T-Tar. And regardless, my play was just to set up anyway because I was forced to. And if he has a Rock move, most likely Stone Edge, which is like the more common one, it has a decent chance to miss, so I would have to kind of bank on that and go for the setup to win this game. So, yeah, man, that's another L, and unfortunate because, like, I'm not saying, like, oh yeah, I got so hacked, because obviously it was Dynamic Punch, but it's just unfortunate because he brought the Manaphy set that I really wasn't expecting, so that's totally on me for not preparing for it enough, and totally good bring on him for, you know, bringing it despite having the Whimsicott. But it's just frustrating because I was pretty sure that game plan was going to work. It was working really well in mock battles, and it's just annoying because, like, it just seems like I can't catch a break lately. The last 4 games I've uploaded have all been losses, and that, you know, has never happened on my channel. It's just like I don't even have a chance to win most of these games because either RNG or like the matchup, for example, like against Blake, there was a lot of RNG influencing that one, and you know, we don't know exactly what the outcome would have been, but I'm very confident I would have won that game. And then against Monotui, the matchup was really, really tough, and I actually did put a lot of time into building that one, and like, yeah, I got kind of lucky with that Scyther, but when you think about it, I got 1 Scald Burn out of 4 Scalds, so that necessarily isn't really, like statistically, that's heavily in my favor to get that burn. It just really was, it was timely against him, which was really unfortunate, but like my team was good enough after that to at least bring it to a pretty close 2-0, where I was in almost decent positions throughout certain points of that game, so like that was such a tough matchup for me, and we were still able to come close, but it was just annoying because I really felt like we didn't have a good chance to win. I just felt like, you know, Mono's such a good player and builder, that's going to be really, really difficult to beat him. And then now here against Cheese, we would have had a good chance if he didn't bring this Manaphy, but he did bring the Manaphy, and we still had a decent chance. Like, statistically, like I was saying before, it was in my favor to hit one of those Dynamic Punches, which would have made a huge difference, and it was also in my favor to not get burned by that first Scald. But, what's it called? But, yeah, unfortunately, those were the things that happened and took any chance we had of winning out of the game. So, you know, what are you going to do? But also, like, that game against Aki I uploaded, that wasn't in the NPL, it was for the ITL. I just filled in for my buddy Zamrock, and that matchup was really, really tough for us too. And I built so, like that one, I really put so much effort into because I was just dying to play Aki, and I had a lot of motivation for that game. Like, admittedly, like I said before, I didn't have a lot of motivation for this game because, I don't know, I've just been not tilting, just frustrated with the game, and I saw this really, really open weakness on his team, so I just said, you know what, no reason to really get into it too heavily, this should work. And but anyway, back to the game against Aki, it was just like the matchup was really, really tough, and we had it in the bag, but like still we got hacked, and it's just frustrating because I feel like I'm playing some of the best Pokemon of my life lately. Like in the Draft League Olympics, I drafted a really good team, and I've gotten hacked most of those games, and I'm undefeated. So it's just like, it's when I have better matchups and stuff like that, it doesn't matter really if I get hacked. So I'm like somewhat hacks proof. But with this team, it's really frustrating because it really doesn't have good matchups against most of these other teams that I'm going against, and it is really not hacks proof at all. And in fact, it's just that type of team where like a little bit of hacks could really, really throw off everything, and that's definitely frustrating because, like I said, I feel like I've been playing so well and not getting rewarded for it at all. As you can see, I'm 1-3 in the NPL right now, which is something I never, like, if you told me that I would have been 1-3 drafting a meme team, I still wouldn't have believed it because, you know, I consider myself just very highly. So, definitely unfortunate, as next week we were going against a very tough opponent in Merc. But finally, our matchup is not that bad against him. Like, my team always is weak to a bunch of threats on my opponents, but this is one where I definitely can see myself, not necessarily winning, but just saying, like, it's one of those where I don't need to necessarily just exploit one little weakness and hope that he is weak to it. It's more like there are a few big threats to his team that could definitely be game-changing against him. So we'll do our best to make a comeback there, but I don't know, guys. It's just been so frustrating lately because even the Grand Overseas Tournament, I don't know if you guys are familiar with that. A really, really big tournament. There was like 100-something people that joined, and I joined just because I kind of like these types of tournaments. And we went 9-0 throughout like the season and the playoffs. Made it all the way to the semifinals, and of course, like, just got hacked so much in that game. And it's like every time I really put some effort in, then all of a sudden I just get hacked like crazy, to the point where it's out of my control whether I could win or not. It's just really, really frustrating because, of course, that happens to everybody, but it really seems like it's been happening to me a lot lately, and just in such a timely fashion. Like, whenever I start to care a little bit, then it's just like, no, like, you're making a mistake, buddy, which I probably am. Caring about Pokemon is a very dangerous game, but it's something I'm very competitive in. It's something I believe that I'm the absolute best in. So, you know, I when I believe I'm the best, I'm always confident that I'm going to go out there and win. And when it doesn't happen, it's just frustrating. Because if I make mistakes, like, for example, when I lost to Mono, even though the matchup was so tough, he didn't hack me or anything like that. And it was just like, you know what, like, fine, fair and square. Like, he totally deserved the win. But when there's so much gray area in a lot of my other games, it's just so frustrating because, like, I just feel like I shouldn't be losing these, and I just consistently am. So, upsetting, but hats off to Cheese Boy. Built a really, really good team, and he's just got my number. That's the bottom line. He definitely has my number. He's doing really well this season, like, really well, and hats off to him there because he took a whole break for the first Gen 7 NPL season. So he's just kind of walking into Gen 7 Draft League now, and he's beating everybody. Like, last week he beat Gypsy King. The week before he beat Jolt. So, and his week 1 game, he had a pretty good shot to beat Riz if he didn't miss a Stone Edge or something like that. So he could be undefeated right now, basically, which is really impressive considering the circumstances. And yeah, please go check out Cheese Boy's channel. Hell of a guy. What else was I going to say? I can't remember. What I was going to say. But, yeah, no, he definitely is doing really well this season, and he's a really cool guy. Really glad that I got the chance to meet him in person. And, yeah, this was another impressive victory for him because, yeah, like, regardless of whatever RNG influenced it, it wasn't that much because, like I said, it was Dynamic Punch. And still, like he's coming back, and he's beat, like, for example, I would consider myself and Gypsy to be, like, the top 2 best draft players in the format, and he beat us back-to-back. So, like, that is pretty crazy regardless of how it happened, in my opinion at least. So he's definitely a guy to keep your eye out on and keep the lookout on because he's really impressing people and making some nice upsets, which is always makes for exciting content and whatnot. So I've been talking for too long. I'm sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you all enjoyed the video. I'll do my best to come back next week, but man, it is tough being Matty Omega, the single greatest competitor to ever grace the Pokemon community, and taking these consistent L's. But we're not going to give up, ladies and gentlemen. We never give up. Like I said, I believe in myself. I'm not going to let this shake my confidence. It's frustrating as all hell, but I'm not going to let it shake my confidence because, like I said, I truly believe that I am the best player out there, and I will prove it to each and every single one of you, but more importantly, to myself, because that is all that matters. It's all about proving it to yourself, ladies and gentlemen, and that's what keeps me going because I believe in myself. So, without further ado, I will end this video. Check out all the other NPL games and coaches and whatnot. Have yourselves a fantastic day, and I'll see you all in the next one later.